Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel Blue Lady Couture. Today I am doing a sew along video. I am doing a pair of Regency short stays, so that's something I've not actually made before. In the introduction to this video I talked about how my very early Regency costume, which sadly doesn't fit me anymore, hence my needing to make new pieces. I never actually used to wear proper Regency stays under them, so I've never made them before, so here I am having a go at this today. I'm not using a commercial or a pre-bought pattern. I'm going to have a go at kind of drafting one myself. So I've done a little bit of research and sort of looked at the different styles. They don't look too terribly complicated. There will be a back panel, a side panel, and a front panel, and then I will need to put some gauze in the front panel, which is how you actually support the bust. So yeah, so they don't look too complicated, but I just need to have a fiddle around with the pattern and have a go, kind of see what works and do some mock-ups before I crack on with the actual fabric. So what I have done, I have gone through my pattern folders and looked at my previous Regency patterns that I have, but I think I can use them as a starting point and go from there and see what needs adjusting and tweaking rather than having to completely draft from scratch. So yeah, so I have pulled out some pattern pieces that I think are going to work for this. So which is my Spencer pattern pieces. So we'll have the nice shape. And so that's the back pieces for the Spencer, and then I'm going to amalgamate that with a bodice piece that I have as well, but I need to do some adjustments to them. The main measurement that I'm going to need really is my underbust measurement. That's the key one, because that's where the stays are going to fit most snugly, and I'm going to work with my back width as well, but I'm going to do a mock-up of these pieces and kind of see what needs adjusting or tweaking, and then obviously my bust size as well. But that's going to be kind of a bit of trial and error with putting gussets in. So yeah, so what I've done is measured my underbust, my rib cage measurement under the bust, which is 30 inches. And when I've just measured these back pieces, from side seam to the other side seam is 15 inches, so that is already, it's perfectly half my rib cage measurement. So I've done a little bit of tweaking to sort of some of the style lines on here. I'm not going to need to do too much, so that's a great base for me to start from. And then that means I need to, this front panel piece, turn it around, you can probably see, but actually, as you can see, it's darted at the bottom, which I don't need to do on stays. So I'm going to close that dart up, and then again I need to measure the total front, the total side seam to side seam at the front. Obviously, again needs to be 15 inches. And, you know, with the back seam that makes 30 inches. So yeah, so I actually need to work out the half measurement for that, and I'm going to make it lace front closing just because it's easier to put on, you know. So yeah, so I'm going to need to just tweak this pattern piece, take this dart out. I will detach the strap section here, and I will add this onto the back panel, or it'll be a separate strap, and then it'll probably have an eyelet fastening, so I can adjust it a little bit so it sits in the right place. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to start. So let's see how I get on. So here's the new pattern that I've just traced off and the old pattern up here, so you can hopefully see a little bit of a comparison what I've done. So yeah, basically I traced off the pattern pieces, but I've tweaked them a little bit on the new pattern. So hopefully you can see here this line, which is this line here. I've softened that curve a little bit because what I will do is I will add some boning over this seam when I make the actual stays, and it'll just sit a lot better if it's a less curved or a less sharply curved seam. So I've just tweaked that a little bit and softened that curve. You can see I've changed the shape of the neckline as well, and I've narrowed this a little bit to match the straps. I've also lengthened these panels just a fraction, just so there's hopefully enough depth that it's not sat directly right under my bust. It needs to be a little bit of length on it, just to help smooth that line from the ribs up over the bust. So yeah, so that is cut out, and it's cut out in calico. So I'm now going to just quickly pop this together on the machine, and then we'll be able to have a little try on. So here's the first very rough try on, just to check the basic shapes and sort of sizings, and I know I'm going to need to make some tweaks to this, so that's fine. So obviously the straps I'm just kind of holding in place at the moment just to keep it where it is. You can see obviously we've got a bit of gapping going on here, so I'm going to need to take some out, definitely there. But you can see here, now I have to ignore where this is split open at the front, because that will adjust when I open the gussets, and that one will shift over. But you can see I've just pinned it. It's snug around my rib cage, so obviously this split is being caused by the curve of my bust, so that will get rectified shortly. And it's probably a little bit high as well, but it might be okay once I actually get the gussets in and it kind of pulls me in a bit. It might just lift me enough, so it might be okay. I don't need to worry about that too much. And then obviously the straps are far too wide, so they all need to be chopped right down, and obviously too long as well, but they're going to come and sit around somewhere like that. So it's not bad. I just need to just scale it down a little bit. So this curve of the armhole at the back there, I think, needs taking in a bit, and obviously that will narrow the straps as well and just put them a little bit more up on my shoulders. Because you do want them straps out generally, I think, kind of just on your shoulders, not too far in towards the neck. Necklines are fairly sort of wide and open in this period. So yeah, and then so just taking it in a little bit on the back, on the bottom of those panels. But otherwise, it's not bad. So I'm going to just add these minor adjustments first, and then I shall worry about the bust gussets. Okay, so this is fitting mark 2. So you can see that it's starting to look a lot better. There's a few more tweaks we need to do. So what I have done is, you can see I have taken in on the base of these curved panels on each side, but looking at it, I can still easily get a finger under there. I'm probably going to take it in on that centre back as well. I'll just start debating whether it needs to be the entire length of that centre back panel and take the whole thing in, whether it's just the bottom. Just trying to work out whether it's gaping a little bit. I don't think it's too bad. I think it's okay. It still feels like the strap's a little bit wide, but I could still take some more out of this curve here, I think, as well. At the moment it is sitting nice and flush. But yeah, but that's certainly sitting a lot better. So yeah, little tweaks, but we are nearly there, I think. So this is really unflattering. I do apologise, but you can see I have now put the gusset splits in, which means I can now close up the front here. You have to excuse this piece of boning because I was stupid and I put it in the wrong way around. I keep these bits originally on hand for doing things like this with corsetry because it's just quicker and easier than putting busts or eyelets and things in, but it just gives you that just gives you that support and stops the fabric buckling at the front so much. Yeah, but I put it in upside down, which is why it's sticking up here. So ignore that. It's just means to an end at the moment. But yeah, you can see I have now got these flappy bits, which will now give you an idea of where the gusset shapes are going to go in, and they're not going to be very big gussets because I'm not a very big girl. So what I did, you can probably see on the back, I've just tapered in the centre back seam a little bit. It's a little bit puckered because the seam is now curved and I've not snipped the curve. So it's just puckering just a little bit, but that'll be fine once the excess is taken out of that seam. And then what I've done is from this point here, I've tapered, but I've taken out another centimetre right the way around the straps and back round the top and off the neckline at the back here as well, and I think that has helped a great deal. So yes, obviously these are still too long, but that's fine because I'll sort that out at the very end once I'm 100% happy with everything. So yeah, next job is just to pop these gussets in. Okay, I'm afraid I haven't, this is going to jump a little bit because my camera battery died, so I'm afraid I have moved on to actually having, oh that was very bright, sorry, actually having the, is it going to focus, the stays made up in their final fabric. I'm just going to turn the brightness down on the light, just give me 2 seconds. Right, hoping that won't be quite so bad. Okay. Yeah, so I have made the stays in their fabric, which is this rather lovely cotton couture corsetry fabric, which is one of the lovely rosebud floral designs. It's really, really thick, really, really sturdy, and you can see I have now got the gussets in there as well. So my plan for today now is I want to put the eyelets in down the front, and then I can do a fitting before I finish off putting bias around the edging. I'm really sorry, the lighting is really hating this bright white couture, so I do apologise if it's a bit glary and you can't see it. Yeah, hold it that way, hopefully you can see it a bit better. So I have put the eyelets in, and I am experimenting with the eyelet setting on my sewing machines. I've never really used it before. Normally if I'm doing sort of Victorian corsetry, I would put steel eyelets in, metal eyelets in, because obviously they are a lot stronger and they can take a lot more stick. So yes, I've not really experimented with machine sewn eyelets before. Traditionally on a Regency stays like these, they would have been hand sewn eyelets. Obviously this is very much pre-sewing machine era, but I really don't have the time to hand sew eyelets, I'm afraid, and this is for undergarments at the end of the day, so not really going to be seen. So I thought I'd have a little bit of an experiment with my settings. and just, you know, see what works. And if at the end of the day they do eventually pull out, I can go over the top of these with some metal eyelets at a later date if needs be. Or essentially I could probably take off this front panel and replace that strip as well if I needed to. So yeah, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to have a bit of an experiment. Both my machines do have an eyelet function. My regular sewing machine has one, and also my embroidery machine, which is also a sewing machine as well, has buttonholes and embroidery buttonholes and eyelet features as well. I've tried using the eyelets on my regular machine, and it's not quite as good as on my embroidery machine. The control and the kind of the finesse isn't quite as good with my embroidery machine, because it does embroidery. It is incredible at doing buttonholes, and my other machine's the same with buttonholes actually now. If I have a lot of buttonholes to do on, say, the front of a jacket, I will use my embroidery machine rather than my regular machine. So I started off by doing my largest eyelet setting, which is a 7mm, and I went around it twice to give it a good anchoring in the fabric. And then you've seen a little bit of footage of me popping the holes in using my eyelet press machine, and because it's a larger eyelet stitching, it just means there's a nice big area inside the eyelet to put the holes in, rather than trying to do it the other way around and missing it, if that makes sense. Obviously I'm still experimenting at the moment, so this could all change. So yeah, so that's what I was doing. So I was doing 2 rounds on my 7mm setting, putting the hole in. Then I was using my fray stopper magic gloopy glue stuff, which just stiffens the fabric a little bit around the opening, and will hopefully stop it coming apart and when it's under a little bit of strain. And then I went back around the eyelets on the machine on the 6mm setting, which just catches over the edge where I've cut the hole with this machine. Yeah, so that is what I've done, and I'm fairly happy with them. So on most of them there's at least 3 rounds of stitching. There's 1 or 2, one perhaps a little bit wonky, but I say I'm still experimenting and haven't done these before, so yeah, I'm quite pleased with those. Okay, so here is the first try on with it, with chemise. It's not quite the right chemise, it's my Victorian chemise, which is why it's kind of sitting off my shoulders. It needs a chemise, as you can see, because the top line of the actual stays themselves sits very, very low. And actually this one, you can see, is a little bit gappy on this side, whereas this side I've just tucked it over, and you can just see that's sitting a lot better against my bust line. But I would definitely need to wear a chemise with it. Not that you wouldn't anyway. You can see I've had to take quite a big chunk out of this centre back panel actually, because it was still quite gappy when I first tried it on. Obviously now I've taken, yesterday when I was doing my mock-up, I'm a little bit naughty, I was doing it over the top of what I thought was quite a lightweight jumper and a dress. But yeah, it's made a considerable difference just taking that off and just wearing a chemise underneath. But yeah, otherwise I am fairly pleased with that. So yeah, it's really just a question of finishing off those little bits and pieces, and then doing the binding around the edge. So that's the stays finished. So I'm pretty pleased with them. So I've finished them by binding the edge with just some white satin bias binding that I have in the studio. It's cheap and cheerful, and it does the job, and it's just a nice pretty finish. And then the lacing works, and there's a little bit of boning in here now as well. But yeah, that is my Regency stays. So my next project is to work on this dress, and then I've got the Spencer to do as well, and if I get time I might make a proper Regency chemise as well, but this does the job, you know, and this chemise gets worn for all kinds of projects when I need something to go underneath a corset, so why change the habit of a lifetime? So that sums up this pretty quick little project, which has been really great just to get the sewing juices flowing again in the new year, and I'm looking forward to going on to some bigger and better projects as we go along. So do make sure that you sign up to my channel, click the subscription little tab and the notifications bell. That will let you know when my next videos go out, which will probably be the next ones in this series for my new Regency wardrobe, and there might be some other little videos in there as well, depending on what kind of interesting things I have to film over the coming weeks. So if you have liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up on the little button down below, because that would really help my channel out, and leave me a comment. Do you want to see more videos like this? Are you working on a Regency project at the moment? Do let me know, especially if it is a Bridgerton project or a Hamilton Spencer jacket project, because they will be the next bits that fit into my Regency series. Don't forget, you can also support this channel by making a donation on my Ko-fi account. Thank you very much for watching, and I will hope to see you in my next video. Take care guys, bye!